I was asked by our Chief Executive last year in March, would I spearhead the initiatives to support and grow the number of female entrepreneurs. And really, I suppose I wanted to talk to you about why we did that. And when I was asked to do it, I didn't really look at it that favourably, to be honest, because I hadn't really looked at myself as being a woman in business or a woman in the workplace, or therefore I hadn't really looked at gender in terms of the enterprises that I was supporting from a high potential startup point of view. So I kind of made that clear, going, God, I'm not sure, I'm not sure how females will react to actually them being specifically targeted for key initiatives. I'm not sure how the male entrepreneurs will react. And so anyway, all in all, I was persuaded to take it on. And it has been an absolute fascinating journey, and I'm just going to share some of the insights with you. I do have a slide presentation, but I'm probably not going to go through it because actually it's just kind of a practical piece that I'm trying to talk about. Really, I suppose, the reason that Enterprise Ireland focused key initiatives on female entrepreneurs is that we get, I suppose, on average, about 1,200 inquiries every year, of which some we can help and some we can't help. Some are focused on a domestic market, and really our mandate is to help those who are exporting abroad. Typically, we give some financial support to about 300 companies. That would include feasibility grants, trade show grants, mentor support, etc. And then we invest in about 100 companies each year. And of those 100 companies, only 7 are ever led by a female entrepreneur. And that is really the key reason of why we decided to bring about some key initiatives to support female entrepreneurs. And as part of that then, I suppose I didn't really know that much last year in relation to female entrepreneurs. I knew a few female entrepreneurs, but not that many, because obviously not that many were coming through our doors seeking meetings. So I knew a lot about entrepreneurship, but typically a lot about male entrepreneurship. So we did a little bit of research in terms of some of the networking groups that are already doing great work in Ireland, and we did some research and a focus group with some of our successful female entrepreneurs, so those of the 7, and some of them are here this evening, so they're really great. And we asked their feedback in relation to what did they think that we could offer to assist them, and particularly those who had gone through that journey of seeking investment to the stage of maybe 250,000 or so. What would they need? And it was very interesting because the different groups of females had different issues in relation to what supports they would require. So one group of females that we interviewed, which was a group of 50, had suggested that they needed support in relation to their own self-worth and confidence and level of ambition. And they also felt that they needed support in relation to accessing finance, and also just support in relation to kind of strategic development of their company. And really what was coming out of those particular discussions was really that idea of having the confidence to actually take your company to the next stage and moving really from a sole trader to an employer and an entrepreneur who can have a scalable business. In relation to the females who had already received funding at a larger scale and were now growing their business and out there, interestingly, they felt that there was no need for additional financial support towards females, that they had gone through the journey and it was as difficult for them as it may have been for their male counterparts. But they looked for other supports in relation to technology. They had suggested that their educational background typically, and it's still the same, it's changing now, but typically if you're talking about to any women in their 30s or 40s who are starting businesses, you are looking at them mainly not having an educational background in engineering or any technology space, and that lack of education in those technology sectors was impacting on the growth of their businesses now, because whilst they were all in different sectors, technology was the underbelly to all of their businesses. So they had sought support around that and support around networking. And interestingly, the support around networking was that networks are typically male dominated. So if you go to any event, if you go to any startup event in Dublin or Ireland any night of the week, which actually you can because the startup community is actually quite strong and vibrant, and you will notice that they are about 90% male attendees. And on the technology mentor and events that happen, startup events that happen around the cities, you'll find that on the technology ones there are about 99% female, male. And it's really difficult then for a female to just kind of hop along and feel comfortable in those. So we are trying to do some work with those networks to try and include more females. And interestingly, I suppose, if you look back on it, and I have 7 brothers myself, and actually if I'm ever out in the town with them, you know, we can go to several locations so they would know several people in whatever venue that we have landed on. And typically they will have known them, either they played against them in rugby, they were on a team together, Gaelic, soccer, etc. And actually I think this team sports that are surrounded by men help them kind of build those networks early in life, and they continue those networks on. And they're not as easy for females to actually join those networks because of the length of time that they may have existed, and a friend introduces a friend. So I suppose a lot of the work that we're trying to do within Enterprise Ireland is encourage networking and encourage events like this. I'm going to talk about 2 of the things that we did do as part of our key initiatives, and they were around financial products. So whilst we did get some feedback to say that they didn't think that financial products specific to female entrepreneurs were required, we decided that there was enough evidence to suggest that maybe they were. So we launched our first only female financial product in July of last year. And that financial product was a grant of $25,000 that was open to female entrepreneurs who were looking to build businesses that would have an export element to them, and also the opportunity to employ up to 10 people within 4 years. Now, on the basis that we had very few business plans in from females, we were expecting, I suppose, at best, and really with a good awareness campaign, that if we got 40 applications for this feasibility fund, that we really would have surpassed what we were looking for. And actually we received 125 applicants. The most interesting thing about that was 90% of those applicants had not approached any state agency seeking support in the past, which was really interesting. All of them were a really good calibre, and obviously it was a competition, so we could only give it to a certain number at the beginning. But the fund was initially for $250,000, of which we hoped to give the $25,000 grant to the top 10. In fact, actually, the calibre was so good that we went back to our investment committee and got an extra $100,000 and gave it to the top 20. And it was really interesting in relation to their backgrounds, their educational backgrounds, the type of businesses that they were developing. And some of them actually were developing businesses that were really seen through the lens of a female. And that was really interesting to us as well, because then we realised that our own literature, in terms of how we had been promoting our services, was very male orientated. So we were writing things like we were seeking I suppose, an awareness campaign around maybe our feasibility studies or around our equity supports, and really they were targeted at life sciences, clean tech, industrial products, where actually we found most females currently in business were in e-health, in software, in technology, in food, in consumer products. And actually I think a lot of the issues there were around our own messaging, and the fact that, and we asked a lot of the applicants, why had they not approached us before for business or for support for their business? And really their view was that, one, they didn't think would be interesting in the type of business that they were in, and two, that because this call was specifically for females, they really saw themselves as an opportunity to gain access, which really was telling for an agency like Enterprise Ireland, who spends a lot of time promoting their services. The second piece, which is really interesting, and this is just a note to all females in the room, of the applicants, the grant was up to $25,000, which is how much you could get in a grant based on a $50,000 spent. It was a 50% grant. And within that, it's the application is very kind of spelled out. You know, you can apply for €1,000 a week for 12 weeks, you can apply for X amount in consultancy, you can apply for X amount in travel, etc. And of the applicants, only 10% applied for the full grant, which was really, really interesting, because that would just not happen in a male entrepreneurial initiative. It just wouldn't. And like they would just apply for the amount. And it was really interesting when you asked the question then. So instead of applying for the €1,000 a week to grow your business, females were applying for €250 a week, maybe €350 a week. And when you ask the question, why is it that you didn't apply for the full amount? Because we all know that whilst you might pay yourself €1,000, when you're starting a business, that all goes back into the business. They felt that they would be perceived to be money grabbing, not good with managing their money, not doing this on a shoestring, And really, ladies, I suppose the call is, if there is a call for you to apply for any type of funding, you always apply for the max. Always. And really brought us back around to the level of ambition and this worthiness of actually, applying for things. And like, seriously, I mean, it really was one of the most telling things about it was how women actually approach business differently. I'm not saying wrongly, but definitely differently. And their attitude to money and their attitude to financing their businesses are completely different to how I would perceive a male attitude towards funding their businesses. And bear in mind, I've been working with startup companies for the last 3 years. If a male entrepreneur came in looking for funding from me, they would have scoured the website before we had a meeting, and they would know more about what was available to them than I would at that meeting, which really is great, because they should. And really, at the end of the day, some people might say, oh, they're very grant orientated, etc. Well, actually, no. If you're an entrepreneur and you're focusing on your business, you should know everything that is available to you, the best advice, and leverage from that and access it and ask. And it's a bit like, I suppose, females in the workplace. You often think, you know, how do men get further in the kind of the ladder piece, and a lot of that is because they ask, and females don't typically ask, and it's the same in entrepreneurial, it's a trait. So the last piece that I'll say on the feasibility study is that I'm delighted with the top 20, and I see some of them are also here this evening, which is great. And I think it's wonderful that the Cartier Awards are here as well, on the basis that women really need to identify themselves to organisations like Enterprise Ireland, like the AIB, like the Cartier Awards, and look for some leverage in relation to promoting what they're doing. The second fund that we announced was the Competitive Start Fund. The Competitive Start Fund is an equity fund that Enterprise Ireland launches every quarter. Okay, it's a 50,000 investment into a startup company based on a 5,000 investment from the promoter. It was brought about 2 years ago because we found that young enterprises were not able to seek the investment piece that they needed from an external investor when they were looking for funding from Enterprise Ireland. So Enterprise Ireland only ever invest to the maximum of 50% in the startup company. The other 50% is made up by the seed investment community, private investors, family, friends, etc. And this Competitive Start Fund was launched so that, based on an American model where you could kind of win quickly or fail quickly, so you know, at no real cost to yourself other than 5,000. And it's a competition, so it's launched, and at the moment we get about 140 applicants per call, so per quarter, of which we give 50,000 investment to the top 15. Of those 140 applicants, the most applicants we have ever had from females is 14, so 10%. And really back to the 10% on the equity piece as well. So we decided that we would launch a Competitive Start Fund for female entrepreneurs, and we launched that in September of this year, and it closed in December. And really, we weren't sure what level of applications, again, we would get in that. We weren't sure whether we were going out to the same pool of people who had applied for the feasibility grant and how it was going to work itself out. Anyway, as it turned out, we got 87 applications for the Competitive Start Fund, so we were thrilled with that. And again, 90% of those individuals who had sought support from the Competitive Start Fund had not accessed any services before. Fascinating to think that there are women out there growing businesses not accessing all of the services that could be available to them. And I suppose the key piece that what I'm trying to do this year is really create awareness to all of the female entrepreneurs and females who are part of a startup team. Because really we're trying to encourage more females to be part of the whole entrepreneurial system, not necessarily only leading the business. Is really just to identify yourself to all of the state agencies, all of the networks, all of the awards, promote yourself and stand up, I suppose, and be counted for the wonderful work that you're doing on the enterprises that you're trying to develop. Because really, I think everybody appreciates that starting a business is hard work. And it's, you know, blood, sweat and tears, and it's, you know, borrowing off everyone to get somebody to believe in you. And really you just need to believe in yourself and to come forward and seek the services and access all that is available to you. And again, on the Cartier Awards, if you need any help in terms of your business plans, etc., you can contact myself, and I'm sure Mary will give the details. So thank you all.